Hello friends, today I take up a new topic and this topic is very much a current topic. The name of the topic is the dispute over Gyan Vapi Mosque at Banaras, a manifestation of the orthodox religious policy of Aurangzeb, the sixth Mughal emperor. Now my lesson plan includes why is it in the news, historical background of Gyan Vapi Mosque at Banaras, the bigoted religious policy of Aurangzeb, outcome of the bigoted policy of Aurangzeb, and finally conclusion. So I will cover this topic under these points. Please share and subscribe my channel. This is a free channel. So now let us start the proceedings. Why is it in the news? The local court ordered that break lock if need be. Report regarding Gyan Vapi Mosque survey before 17th May. The court ordered for an FIR to be lodged against those who will create hindrance in the work of video survey by the authorities appointed by the court. The commission work must not be stopped even if any of the petitioner cooperate or not. The court appointed two additional commissioners, Vishal Singh and Ajay Pratap Singh, in addition to Ajay Kumar Mishra, an advocate commissioner. Video survey was halted on Saturday after the Masjid Committee filed an application in the court alleging bias. On April 21, Allahabad High Court dismissed the petition filed by the Masjid Committee challenging the local court's order. On April 26, the Banarasi Court again ordered videography of the disputed site under heavy security. And today, Supreme Court declined to entertain the petition filed by Masjid Committee for the stay of the order of local court regarding video survey of the disputed site of Gyan Vapi Masjid. The historical background of Gyan Vapi Mosque. Gyan Vapi Mosque at Banaras was constructed on the site of Vishwanath temple, which had been demolished by Aurangzeb in 1669. Earlier, after the defeat of Raja Jaichand of Kannauj in 1194 by Qutbuddin Aibak, the temple was destroyed by Aibak. The temple was rebuilt by Gujarati merchants during the reign of Iltutmish. Hussain Shah Sarki and Sikandar Lodi again destroyed the temple. Raja Man Singh during Akbar's rule reconstructed temple. But Brahmins boycotted it because his daughters were married to the Mughal rulers. Raja Todarmal, who was the revenue minister and one of the Navaratna of the court of Akbar the Great, he again improved and repaired the temple in 1585 AD. In 1669, as I have already told you, Aurangzeb demolished the temple and converted it into a mosque. The current Vishwanath temple was built by Ahilya Bai of Indore in the year 780 on an adjacent site south of Gyan Vapi Mosque. Banaras is the holiest in the Hindu cities. It is an eternal city. It has never declined or witnessed downfall in its long history. Friends, as you know that Kashi was one of the 16 Mahajanpad during the 6th century BC, during the age of Buddhas. Now, Kashi was annexed by Kausal and Kausal itself was annexed by Magad Empire. But Kashi has been the greatest center of Hindu learning and philosophy. It has also been the greatest religious center of Hindus all over the world. So it never declined. It is an eternal city. Now it is one of the 12 Mahajyotirlinga, the most pious pilgrimage centers for Hindus. This is the map that will show you the 12 Mahajyotirlings, and these are Kedarnath in the north, Visheshwar or Vishwanath temple, Baidyanath in Jharkhand, Mahakaleshwar in MP, Omkareshwar in MP, Nageshwar in Gujarat, Somnath in Gujarat, Trambakeshwar in Maharashtra, Bhimshankar in Maharashtra, Girish Neshwar in Maharashtra, Mallikarjun in Telangana, and Rameswaram in Tamil Nadu. These are the 12 Mahajyotirlingas, the most pious pilgrimage centers for Hindus. Like Makkah and Medina for Muslims. In 1984, Vishwa Hindu Parishad launched nationwide agitation to reclaim the sites of mosques constructed, demolishing Hindu temples, including the Gyan Vapi. The title dispute suit was filed in the Banaras Civil Court in 1991 for handing over the site to Hindu community. On April 8, 2021, City Court ordered Archaeological Survey of India to conduct the survey of the Gyan Vapi Mosque. Now I switch over to another point, the bigoted religious policy of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was a fanatic Sunni. There are two prominent divisions in Islam, and that is Sunni and Shia. Sunnis constitute 80% of the total Muslims all over the world, while Shias constitute only 20% of the total Muslim population in the world. Now, Aurangzeb wanted to convert India from Darul Harb to Darul Islam, from a country of fanatics to an Islamic country, and to establish supremacy of Islam in India. He banned Nowruz, the New Year celebrated by Zoroastrians in Persia. Sati system, the obnoxious Sati system prevalent among Hindus, although it had no major impact upon the Hindu masses. Later on in 1829, by the efforts of Raja Ram Mohan Rai, the obnoxious Sati system was banned by Lord William Bentinck in India. Cultivation of bhang was also banned. Gambling, drinking, musician in the court, celebration of Hindu festivals like Diwali, Dasara, Basant Panchami, all these festivals were banned by Aurangzeb. Appointment of Muhtasibs was done for the enforcement of Sharia laws in Hindustan. Important temples of Hindus like Kesavarai temple at Mathura, Vishwanath temple at Banaras, and Somnath temple in Kathiawar, all these temples were destroyed. Similarly, temples around Marwar, Mewar, Odisha were desecrated and destroyed at the behest of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb reimposed Jizya in 1679 So he reversed the policy of Akbar, who had abolished jizya. Similarly, he reimposed pilgrim taxes upon Hindus. Friends, as you know that the quantum of jizya was not more than 2.5%, but it was discriminatory. It symbolized a kind of discrimination between Hindus and Muslims. And so Hindus very much protested against the imposition of jizya throughout the reign of Aurangzeb. Similarly, Aurangzeb gave temptation to Hindus in order to embrace Islam by way of remission in taxes and sentences. Even monies were offered to Hindus for their conversion into Islam. Now, by all these methods, Aurangzeb reversed the religious policy initiated by Akbar. 5% cess on imports and exports by Hindus, while only 2.5% on Muslims. This was also a discriminatory tax imposed upon Hindus by Orthodox Aurangzeb. Now I switch over to another point, outcome of bigoted policy of Aurangzeb. What were the results of the policy adopted by Aurangzeb in a country where majority of people were inhabited by Hindus? People very much detested the policy adopted by Aurangzeb, and so the first outcome of his policy was revolt of the Jats under Gokul, Rajaram, Churaman, and finally establishment of independent kingdom at Bharatpur in Rajasthan. The revolt of Satnamis, because of the tussle between Satnami peasant and the Mughal soldiers, and around 2,000 Satnamis were killed. Similarly, thousands of Jats were killed because they protested against the religious policy of Aurangzeb and the desecration of Kesavrai temple at Mathura and the humiliation meted out to the Jat women. Similarly, the revolt by Sikhs, Guru Tegh Bahadur, the 9th Guru, was imprisoned and were asked to embrace Islam. When he refused, Guru was tortured for 5 days and then finally he was killed. Similarly, Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Guru, established Khalsa to fight against the atrocities of Mughals. His 4 sons were killed by Mughals. Opposed religious fanaticism of Aurangzeb. He was himself killed by 2 Pathans in 1708. After the death of Aurangzeb in 1707. Rajput revolts. Rajput also revolted against the deliberate policy of Aurangzeb. Rajputs were alienated. Aurangzeb annexed Marwar kingdom. When Jaswant Singh died fighting in Afghanistan near Kandahar, his 3 sons were already killed in action, and so there were no heir apparent to take over the charge of Marwar. Taking advantage of the situation, Aurangzeb annexed Marwar in the Mughal Empire, but his policy was very much detested by Durgadas, Rathore and one of the surviving son, Ajit Singh, was given protection by him, and then he waged a struggle against Mughals, and after the death of Aurangzeb, Ajit Singh was recognized as the real heir apparent of Marwar kingdom. Similarly, he started a struggle with Mewar, and thereby desecrating and destroying more than 200 temples in and around Mewar. Killing of Sambhaji. Sambhaji was cut to pieces and thereby failed to understand the true nature of Maratha movement. Aurangzeb was devoid of a real Maratha king to negotiate with. Annexation of Golconda and Bijapur was also a folly on the part of Aurangzeb. Both states were Shia states, and with the annexation of Golconda and Bijapur, the empire became so much large that it collapsed under the weight of its own. Like Rajputs, Maratha Sardars were never trusted. Although the number of Maratha Mansabdars swelled in numbers during the period of Aurangzeb, but they were not given the position of authority in the Mughal Empire like Rajputs, with the result that Marathas never became the part and parcel of Mughal Empire. Conclusion. Number 1, Sikhs, Rajputs, Marathas became the perpetual enemies of Mughal Empire. In 1857 revolt, Sikhs, Rajputs and Marathas did not participate in the revolt when the last Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar was declared as the emperor of Hindustan by the mutineers. Except Nana Sahib at Bithur and Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi, all Maratha Sardars kept mum during the 1857 revolt. The bigoted religious policy of Aurangzeb further alienated the goodwill of the Mughal Empire among Hindu masses. The composite culture developed by Akbar was torn asunder by Aurangzeb. The Hindu-Muslim divide was later on exploited by the Britishers, leading to the partition of India. The fanatic religious policy of Aurangzeb dug the grave of Mughal Empire. However, the stagnant economy, because production and productivity were not increasing commensurate with the rising demands of nobility and mansabdars, crisis of Jagidari system, neglect of science and technology were other factors at work for the downfall of Mughal Empire. Friends, as you know that the number of mansabdars during Akbar were around 2000. It swelled to 11,400 during the reign of Aurangzeb. More Hindus were mansabdars during Aurangzeb period. But since the economy became stagnant, production was not increasing at the pace at which the rank of mansabdars and nobility swelled. Further, there was lack of jagirs because most of the fertile lands were cornered by Mughal emperor and were converted into Khalsa land. The area capture around Karnataka or South India were not so much productive, and so nobody was taker of this land as their Jagir, as his Jagir. So there were crisis of Jagirdari system, a stagnant economy, swelling of the rank of nobility and mansabdars, and India was completely oblivious of the development of science and technology that was going on in the Western world. But we cannot absolve Aurangzeb from the responsibility of downfall, because the policy of Aurangzeb, and particularly the religious policy, completely removed the goodwill of the vast majority of Hindus, and this led to the downfall of Mughal Empire. Thank you very much.